I'll go ahead and give you kind of a brief introduction. Before I do, the few people that have the workshop forms, the, what are they called? Feedback forms, thank you. If you'd go ahead and put those up here in the folder when class is done, that would be great. Okay, so Sofia St. Angelis is the special publications editor for In Detail magazine. She's also one of the professional book reviewers. With an average of 8 books read every month for work and pleasure, it's safe to say she is addicted to books as she is to stilettos. Her favorite part of reading, a sweet romance, and a hunkerific book boyfriend. Right? That wasn't awkward the way I read that. In the middle of writing her first book, Sofia attended a writer's conference where she was introduced to archetypes. What was meant to be a mere tool in character development turned into a hobby, obsession. So much so now that when she's introduced to new people, they sometimes recognize her as that lady who does the archetyping. Now, in the middle of writing her second book, Sofia has honed and developed a new technique that she calls archetyping. And she does have, was that your second book that has now been released? Or
no, that's my first been released, working on the, second and third.
So we gave away her first book during one of the earlier sessions, Siren Tamer. So look for that in the bookstore if there's still any left. And I go ahead and now give you Sofia St. Angelis.
Okay, so this class is supposed to be with the working mic. There? Okay, tons of fun. I want you to interact with me. Let's talk about your characters together. This is not me talk to you. This is let's talk about your characters, right? A little incentive. I just happen to be from a sparkly place in Washington. And I happen to have real fangs from Forks, Washington, that I will pass out to some lucky participants. So, let's get going. Archetyping your alpha. Does anybody know what archetypes are, first of all? Raise the hands. Anybody know what archetypes are? Yes?
I know what they are.
Okay.
Just like categories or specific types of characters.
Right. It's mostly used in psychology. It's kind of character traits, right? It started clear back with Plato, but was more fully developed with a psychiatrist in Switzerland in the 1800s. But now we are going to use it as authors. So I have a clicker. I forgot. That's not working. I don't know. Sorry.
If not, just hit your top. Or just
Yeah, I can just hit the
Sorry,
button.
I don't know why it's not on.
That's all right. You got it. Okay. First of all, these are my. Hi. You could come in. Okay, so I want you to think of your favorite male character, book character, movie character, whoever it is. Anybody want to share who their favorite one is? You're your favorite. I'm not surprised you said that. Yes.
There's a character named Niall from by Melissa Mark, that he's dark and conflicted and he wants to be good, but he's still dark. He's really amazing.
So was he the main character or secondary character?
Secondary character.
That's interesting.
He's secondary character in like a couple, but in ink exchange, he's the main character.
Cool.
Kind of a parallel system.
Great. Anybody else? Yes. Yes. Definitely.
The first one that came to mind is Tarver from These Broken Stars.
Oh.
Yes.
What's he like? What's Tarver like?
He's in the military, and he and a girl get stranded on a planet, and they do all survival stuff, and he's
Cool.
hunky and fabulous.
Hunky fabulous.
Shane from Mulan.
Oh, yes. Okay. I agree with that. Yes. Love Nacho Libre. Nacho! Okay. So these are two of my favorite characters. Try finding a Gaston button in Disneyland, a pin for your lanyard. Not happening. I don't know why. He's my favorite. If you ever find one, let me know. Anyway, My second, well, actually, Gaston's number 2. Number 1 is a character in Jennifer L. Armentrout's Pure, and his name is Seth, and he is an Apollyon. And he's not the main character. He is a secondary character, but he is just awesome. He's just a swaggering braggart and in your face, and I just love him. He's my favorite character of all time. So we want to make our characters like that. We want them to be that character that people make Team Edward and Team Jacob t-shirts for, right? We want to be on that Facebook competition that wins the little certificate that's not even real, it's online, for the hunkiest character or whatever, right? So what is archetyping? I am having trouble with this thing. Okay, so here's the really complicated definition of archetyping. You can all look it up, it's in the dictionary. But here is my version of archetyping, or archetypes. Do you remember these? Anybody? Okay, good, I'm not the oldest one. Okay, not the only one that remembers those. Right, so you put the little chubby yellow pieces in the slots. So to me, this is what archetypes are. Yes, all of us as humanity, we're all the little yellow pieces, but we all fit into these little individual slots, right? We're not all exactly the same. We have similarities that keep reoccurring. Okay, this is the book that introduced me to archetypes. I highly recommend it. It's a really long title, though. The Complete Writer's Guide to Heroes and Heroines, 16 Master Archetypes. Excellent book. Do you need another second on that one? Okay. Okay, so I learned about this in a writer's conference. This is what they were talking about in the writer's conference, and then I became obsessed with it a little bit. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's your first archetype, the alpha. When I think of an alpha, I think of Thor, I think of Captain Kirk, I think of Mr. Darcy. Okay, this guy is the leader. He gets upset when people don't follow him. He gets upset when you don't trust his judgment. And he may not be the smartest little tool in the toolbox, but his intuition is spot on most of the time. So even though he may not have a logical reason for it, the arguments between Spock and Captain Kirk, about whether this is logical or not, and it never is, but it always works out. That's what alphas do. They are, well, you can read what they are. I'm sure you can think of characters like this, and I'm sure you can think of people like this. I am not doing this very well. I am not microphone talented. Okay. So, and every archetype has its good and its bad, right? But this is what you need to remember about your character. Your character does have flaws, just like Ann Perry was saying today. If you don't understand them, if you don't understand their faults, their flaws, their quirks, as well as all the things that are wonderful and good about them, you don't really understand them, do you? You can't really come to care for them, like she said. Okay, next up is the charmer. The charmer is, 007, old or new, whichever one, there's so many of them. Okay, his name escapes me right now. Mr. Wickham. Mr. Wickham. Okay, very charming, very, I love to do this. We have a lot of missionaries that come through our house. We're kind of the missionary house. And so when the missionaries come to our house, they get archetyped. And this one, I was asking him questions, and he was looking to be this archetype or this archetype. I couldn't really decide. And then I said, how many girls are writing to you right now? And he said, well, 2 really seriously. And I said, okay, how do you feel about those girls? And one girl was one way and one girl was the other way. They weren't alike at all. But he couldn't decide between the 2 because he liked this about this one and this about that one. And I said, is that all? And he said, well, there may be 15 more. And so it was just, okay, I think you're a charmer. Okay. I know. Is it even helping anything? Can I just talk?
That might be why the cord was on the table. If you like drape the cord on the table, it might support.
How about if I
the
just,
wires.
do you care if I just talk? As long as I talk loud? Can you hear me back there?
Are there cordless mics on there, Sophia?
She has one on her lapel.
I don't see nothing.
Because when we did the panel in here, the cordless mics worked really well.
I don't see any cordless mics. Just this here. Okay. I will try to talk loud. Okay. So the gentleman. The gentleman is like your Clark Kent, right? He's overlooked for love every time. He's not the leader. He's not the alpha, so he's not as appealing to the girl that way. He's not sparkly like the charmer, but she's the one he goes to confide in. She's the one she cries on his shoulder when her heart has been broken, but she won't date him, right? He's just her best friend. So the problems with them, they're too nice. They are unorganized because they're very laid back. That's why you want to confide in them. They're relaxed, they're easygoing, and they really genuinely want to listen to you. Lois Lane looks right over Clark Kent every time. Okay, so the intellectual. This is Spock. This is Henry Higgins. This is Sherlock Holmes. Okay? I've had actually a lot of intellectual missionaries. I don't know why, but there's just an influx of them. They really are great with the scriptures. They're the ones who like to argue the gospel with people. Their faults are they can never say they're sorry. But the reason why they never say they're sorry is because they're always right. Not because they want to offend you or they just know that they're right. So why should I apologize? But they're very smart. They're very inventive. They're problem solvers still, and they're extremely intelligent. Okay. Just tell me if you need me to wait. That's fine. Let's see. Okay, I'll tell you about an intellectual that came through my house. He, and every time I archetype an intellectual, they argue with me that they're not an intellectual. And so 3 days later, they're still trying to convince me, but I wear contacts most of the time, not glasses. And I like playing sports, I really do. And they're always trying to argue their way out of being an intellectual. And this one, I kind of give them a little fake prescription at the end, because they always want to know, who should I marry? That's the big missionary question, who should I marry? And so I give them kind of a matching archetype to look for. But I also, if they're kind of struggling, I give them a little idea of something that can help them. So he was so rigid and so structured. I told him he needs to go to one of those painting pottery places, where you decorate a mug or a plate or something. And I said, I want you to detail the heck out of that thing. I want you to put the Millennium Falcon on it. And then I want you to take it out in the street, and I want you to lift it over your head and shatter it on the ground. And he visibly went, I'm like, what? He just couldn't understand why he would break something but that's what he needed. He needed to break out of this shell and try spontaneous things. Try to look at other people's perspectives,
I am curious because to me, Sherlock, at least that version of Sherlock, is quite spontaneous. So,
He is.
So is an intellectual typically?
I think it's genuinely, well, okay, let me explain something about.
He is spontaneous because he's so intellectual, so smart, he knows what to do.
I don't think he does anything by accident. I think he knows exactly what he's doing.
So it seems spontaneous to the rest of us.
Yeah, like his brain is just going faster. You haven't figured out what he's doing yet, but he knows exactly what he's doing. Speaking of that, there was another one who another missionary, he ended up being a dual archetype, which is fairly rare, but he would climb the rafters in the churches and have his picture taken in his suit and tie hanging from the rafters in the church. And so I wanted to know, is this kid, is he an adventurer or, because when I talk to him, when I archetype him, he's more of an intellectual. Come to find out, the reason he likes the adventure is because it's a problem to solve. How do I get to the rafters? How exactly do I do this safely? Can I do it? So it wasn't the adventure and the thrill of it. It was the complex challenge, solving a problem. How do I get into the rafters and hang from them and get my picture taken? Okay, moving on. Adventurer. Okay, they're fearless, they're energetic, they're the guy that jumps off the cliff with the parachute strapped to his back. Very confident, very impulsive, but their flaws tend to be that they can't commit to things and they're gone all the time. So if you have this swashbuckler and he's in a relationship, she's going to be very frustrated that he doesn't like to stay at home. He's constantly gone to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. He's not staying home, doing home cutesy things. He still wants that adventure, and he'll get married and he'll even date, but really the adventure is the most important thing. It usually takes precedence over relationships. More time? Okay. Let's see, other examples of adventurer. Well, those are really good ones. And sometimes they're a reluctant adventurer, right? Indiana Jones didn't really want to be that. He was just kind of thrown into it sometimes. He just ended up, and he's just, I have to do this again. So sometimes they're a reluctant adventurer. Not all archetypes, even though they're in the same, okay, so I wish I had a whiteboard. So this is my analogy of how archetypes work. And if you look them up, there's a ton of different ways on how archetypes work. My philosophy is gospel related. So I think of archetypes as being a wheel with spokes, and there's a hub, and the hub is Christ. Christ is the perfect of everything, the goodness of everything, the goodness of all of these character traits. And each one of us is usually one of the spokes, and where we are in our life is somewhere on that spoke. If you are intolerant, if you are, you can't see other people's point of view, everything's very rigid, no matter what the archetype, you tend to be clear out on the ends. You're not paying attention to what other people think or, different ideas, different ways of doing things. But the more Christ-like you become, the more Christ-centered you become, the more your archetype tends to blur. The more you tend to be, maybe 2 or 3 different things from other archetypes, right? And so it may not be, these are not exactly the same character. One has a few different traits than others, but they all have the same basic archetype, if that makes sense. Okay, next is the guru. This is the gamer in his mama's basement. This is the guy who's very introverted, extremely. He can handle maybe 3 other people at a time, but that would even be stress-inducing. They'll go out in small groups, but even then that's pretty rare. It's hard to get them to go out at all. This is the guy who's your forensics specialist. He's your museum curator. They have no problem whatsoever being in a basement, being in a lab. They just don't need social interaction. Mostly because they different from the intellectual, they have one specific thing that they focus on, and they become the expert on that one specific thing. Whereas intellectuals are really pretty good at most things. Gurus are good at one thing, and they're usually smarter than intellectuals. You just don't know it because they don't talk. Yes?
Any other examples? Yeah. Okay, so older. Topher?
Yeah, they tend to be, they don't tend to be the main character, they tend to be a secondary character. Yes? Well, he's a little, as much as he throws parties, he's separate from the party. He never participates in the party. And really the party is in hopes that his woman will come. You know what I mean? It's kind of a trap to get her to come to him. He can't go to her because he's a guru. He likes being away. And he would like her to come to him. He likes her and wants her to come to him, but he's never part of the party. He's always separate. And he's really eccentric, right? They tend to be very eccentric. Any other questions? Yes? Yeah.
These different archetypes that you're talking about, we're talking about mainly men here, but is that both men and women, but this class particularly?
This is focused on men. There are 8 separate archetypes for women, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, when you look up archetypes, there's anywhere from 4 to 70 that I've seen. But archetypes, according to Sofia, there's 8 and 8. Yes?
If someone had a personality disorder, would they still fit into one of these?
Yes, they do. And and the only way I think that's true, with the missionaries that come in, some of them have ADD, some of them have autism, some have, you know what I mean? And they still have that core.
Like, would they still fit into these?
The narcissist is the charmer. Absolutely. Yes.
Is it common for if someone has like an albeit different archetype, like you were saying, Archetype versus Superman, or you've got both?
Yes, they tend to be the thing that they, I mean, look at Clark Kent. He became exactly what Lois Lane wanted. You know, I mean, he went from being a best friend to being this, you know, savior of humanity. I don't know, though. I mean, he was still the gentleman. He was still the rescuer, still the, I don't know. I think it could go both ways, depending on what you wanted your character to do. Any other questions? Okay. All right, the Knight. The Knight, Captain America is a great example. He's not a leader. Even though he's a larger-than-life superhero, he's not a leader. He follows his boss, right? He's still beholden to the government. But he will follow that leader without deviance. No matter how many times Tony Stark tells him not to, he still follows the government, right? Let's see, who else? Atticus Finch. I mean, he knew this was right or this was wrong, and there was no gray area. It's just, it is what it is. Oftentimes, you cannot get them to compromise because they're very set in the path that they're going on. They tend to be politicians. They only like to argue. They don't like to argue like an intellectual likes to argue. They argue because they want you to understand their cause. Not because they want to be smarter or have a better comment. They want you to join their cause.
Who's the knight on the bottom?
Sir Lancelot.
Is that from Leonard?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Okay, very patriotic, very loyal, all of those things. Okay, the rogue. This is our last one. Does anybody recognize the top character?
Is it from the movie Boomerang?
No. Ruth knows. You will when I tell you who it is. Okay, so this character's name is Luther. It's a BBC show. If you want to see an outstanding rogue from a BBC show, it's on Netflix. Excellent rogue character. Luther. Sorry, it is the character name and the name of the show. Okay, so the thing about the rogue, they're in trouble all the time. But they're not like the charmer. The charmer is in trouble, but he talks his way out of the trouble. He charms his way out of trouble. The bad boy isn't charming because he doesn't care enough to be charming. And so he doesn't get out of trouble. He ends up being in the principal's office and expelled from school and all those kinds of things. But they're very independent. They may have a boss, but they're trying every way they know how to make the decisions on their own. That's why they tend to be cops, because cops make their own decisions when they're out on the street. That's why they tend to be a criminal. They don't have a boss. They're doing their own thing, you know. They tend to actually think differently than most people. They most often are wounded in some way and jaded, but they don't care enough until they meet the one person that they think understands them. Whether that's a church leader, a girlfriend, a best friend. When they find one person that they think understands them, truly understands them, and doesn't want to change them, whether, great relationship in Luther, the person that he confides in. Awesome character. I love her too. Okay, but they are extremely loyal. Once they find that person, they will not deviate from them except for betrayal. Never, ever, ever betray a rogue, because you're done. They will never, ever forgive you. Never. Okay, so now what is archetyping? We've learned about archetypes, right? So what's archetyping? What are we on time? Anybody? I hope I'm not going too slow. Okay, so what is archetyping? Okay, there's no definition. If you look up archetyping in the dictionary, it doesn't exist. Because I'm kind of hoping this is my thing. So what archetyping is using archetypes to discover your character. Using questions to discover what your character is. Interview your character. Find out what questions you do know about them. Or if you're starting fresh, what do I want my character to be? And stay true to that archetype. One really good example, anybody seen Downton Abbey? Okay, Downton Abbey. Who knows Mary? What's Mary like? Cold, uptight. Does she care about other people's opinions?
Yeah.
Determined.
Private.
Private. Will she tell you to your face what she thinks?
Yes.
Okay. So, just great character. Love the character. One mistake they made. In one scene, she says, I have no problem lying. And you're thinking, yeah, Mary has no problem lying. She'll just tell, if it serves her purpose, she'll lie. So the very next scene, Mr. Bates is going to be hanged for killing somebody who assaulted his wife. And all of a sudden, she's struggling with lying about him being where he was. And you're like, wait, just like the scene before that, she literally said, I have no problem lying, but now she's afraid to lie to the cops about where he was. And so to me, that went against Mary. She would not have had a problem. She would have wanted to help Mr. Bates and Anna, and she would have lied without a problem. So that was difficult for me. So when you're constructing your characters, be true to them. Rogues, if you betray them, they will not forgive you. So don't let them forgive people. They just don't. That's part of who they are. If you want to make them that severe, of course. But, when you decide if you're starting fresh, start with an archetype and stay true to those characteristics. But that will help you form, their faults, their strengths, all those things. This will give you a template to go by to create that character. If you already have your character, what is your character? What archetype is your character? I will give you a list of questions to ask your character. Yes?
I just wondered, does this correlate, have you studied personalities like the cholerics and the melancholies and the phlegmatic?
I haven't. I have no psychology background whatsoever. I use my archetype to do what I do.
And when you say you'll give us information, do you have any of this printed anywhere?
I'm writing a book. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how you do archetyping without all the characters turning out kind of formulaic.
Well, like I said, they're on different, if you put them on different levels of that,
Sliding scale.
yes. Well, and if you look at Indiana Jones versus Captain Jack Sparrow, they're both swashbucklers, but they're very different. One's very reluctant to be a swashbuckler. The other one's like embracing it, right? So there are different variations just on different levels of that,
It's not they haven't accomplished that by mixing archetypes as much as just moving them from extreme to
Yes,
extreme.
that's what I think. I mean, if you look at the Avengers, every single Avenger has a different archetype. They're all superheroes, every single one of them. And we all have main male characters and main female characters. But the difference is their personality, right? I mean, Captain America is completely different from Tony Stark. But they're still superheroes. But I think that's what made Avengers work. They stayed true to all of their archetypes. They didn't, and it made an awesome mix, right? One of the best box office movies there's been. Okay, so there is no technical archetyping is new. Well, I think it is. I hope it is. Okay, so let's play 20 questions. These are the questions you need to ask your character. What is your favorite subject in school? Now, when we ask this question, we are asking their childhood, okay? The formative years that helped make them who they are. Your intellectual is going to like science maybe, or math. Your, I had somebody today say recess was their favorite subject in school. I can give you a good female example, but not a good male one. Let's see. Anyway, this is leading to what their interests are, so that we can find out the archetype in the end. You know, the charmer may say girls. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so what did you major in? This is just more fine-tuning. This is finding out, you know, now that you're paying for school, what are you going into? Now you've got to be a little more serious and a little more defined. Did they even major? Did they go to school? You know, the bad boy probably didn't go to college. You know, or the rogue. The rogue probably didn't go to college. But, you know, maybe he went to the police academy. Or jail. Okay, what do you want to be when you grew up? Interestingly enough, there are several people that say, I don't know. And that was completely foreign to me. Who didn't know when they were a kid what they wanted to be when they grew up? But interestingly enough, a lot of people don't know. But this also leads you, you know, did they want to be a scientist? Did they want to be a rock star? Did they want to be a basketball player? Which is, you know, basketball player is probably an adventurer. You know, if he wants to be a scientist, he's probably an intellectual. This is all like leading you down the path to particular archetypes, okay? Did you play sports? The guru is not going to play sports. Unless if he says, yeah, I like fencing. Or he says, I like golf. Does he have to play on a team to play golf? No. So he may still like a sport, but it's very individual. It's more him against himself, right? If he's playing Halo. They call that a sport. Okay, team or solo sports. This is more defining, you know, leaning toward, are you a guru or are you this alpha who likes to be the quarterback? Okay. Did you get in trouble a lot? If he didn't, he's probably a guru. You know, like a guru or a gentleman don't generally get in trouble because they don't want to hurt the teacher's feelings. You know, they don't want to, and they like their mom, and so they want their mom to be happy so they wouldn't get in trouble. Charmers and rogues get in a lot of trouble, but for very different reasons. Your charmer is curious. He's precocious. He wants to see if I can break into the 7-Up plant and see if I can get back out again without getting in trouble. You know what I mean? And then talk his way out of it. The charmer never gets arrested. The bad boy or the rogue does. Okay, leader or follower. Only one time in all the people I've archetyped has anybody ever said follower. Especially the men. The women, you know, they don't care so much, but the men do. They, you know, they're always, well, I'm a leader. So, yeah, usually that comes out leader anyway. So do you have a group of friends or just one or two friends? This is still finding out, are they a guru? Are they an intellectual? And intellectuals have usually a tight-knit group of friends. They're not necessarily, you know, social butterflies necessarily. The adventurer, they can kind of go either way. They can have a lot of group of friends that they go, water skiing with or whatever, or they're doing rock climbing alone, Charmers always have a lot of friends, usually of the female persuasion. Okay, were you the group organizer? So this is leading to, is he the alpha? Okay, if he's a warrior, he may help in the organizing, but he's usually not the person who stands up and does the organizing. Or if he's a rogue, he wants a say in what we're doing, but he doesn't want to lead it. So he'll give his 2 cents, but he won't want to lead it. He wants to be able to leave if he wants to and do his own thing. And he's always going to bring his own car. He's not traveling in the carpool with you so that he can leave if he wants. Okay, did you date? So the guru, no way. The rogue, they usually don't recognize when girls like them or not. Or they have one particular girl in mind that they think understands them, and they're not necessarily courageous enough to talk to her about it. So they don't date a lot. The rogue. They have someone in mind, usually, so they don't date a lot. Yes?
What about like the knight versus like the gentleman?
The gentleman, he gets overlooked for the dating. He'll go like group dates. He loves group dates because then he gets to be around the girl that he likes, right? Even though she's not choosing him for prom. So he would love group dating because that finally gets him out with whoever he likes. The guru's not, too introverted. The alpha, of course, he's always got a girl on his arm.
What about the knight?
The knight, I think they could go either way. Yeah. Okay, group date or just the 2 of you? So this defines it a little more. Is he the one who wants to be in charge, or does he like to have a lot of people around him? Is he the charmer that wants to have attention? The rogue is going to want to just be one person. If he finds her. Okay, what are your relationships like? So this is about love relationships, okay? Did they have a long relationship? Are they with one girl for a really long time and then got their heart broken? Or are they a charmer who's flitting from girl to girl to girl to girl? Are they the alpha who has the cheerleader, and then moves on to the captain of the dance team or something, but he always has to have the top girl, right? So that will define a little bit more. Okay, have you ever been in love or had your heart broken? So, gentlemen get their hearts hurt a lot because they tend to fall for seductive girls who use them for what they need and then move on to what they really want. Or the friend of theirs who, wants to be around him but doesn't want to date him, so he gets his heart wounded, Yes?
Just a quick question, it's backtracking a little bit.
Okay.
You said that most of the guys would answer as like a leader. Would the gentleman see himself as a leader?
I don't think he would mind to, especially in a social situation, because they're very social. They're very laid back. I'll just do whatever you guys want to do. But if he has to be the leader, he can. I don't necessarily think he would step out to say, I am the leader. But if he needed to, he could. But I think for most part, he just wants to be part of the fun. Anything else? Okay, what's your family makeup? Is this guy, does he have an older brother that he just has to be like, I have to do what my older brother did because he was the captain of the football team, and I got to be the captain of the football team, even though I'm an intellectual? Are they the middle child that gets overlooked, and so they're kind of pretty independent? They do their own thing. Are the baby, that is used to his mother's attention all the time? Maybe he's a charmer because he was the baby of the family and got a lot of attention and therefore needs it as an adult. Okay, what did your parents do for a living? If they were around, right? Did they have a single parent? Was their dad, like a lot of times, the You know, it depends on what the parent is doing. If they're highly political, did that shape shape how they turned out in life? If they hate the military, did that shape how they turned out in life? You know, were they dirt poor and struggling from paycheck to paycheck, or were they entitled? You know, you're going to come out with a different archetype with that. Okay, in your family, who was your favorite? Did they love their mother, their grandma? Did they look up to their dad? Was it a big brother? Or was it outside their family? Was it, you know, a church leader because they didn't have family members? That is going to shape who they become, right? The person who they confide in and they look up to is going to shape who they are. Okay, are you interested in politics? This is going to be where you find the knight, okay, the warrior, the one who absolutely is going to die for his country, or has some kind of, you know, firmly believes in things, has a real gusto for things. Most men will say, yeah, I support the military, but I don't want to go to war. Or I would if I had to. That's a lot of, but this is mostly to find the knight, right? Yes?
Can the knight be very loyal towards the leader without necessarily caring about the politics in it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they blindly follow sometimes, you know? As long as they believe in the leader, if the leader starts to stray from what, you know, we were aimed this way and you just went that way, and now I'm not going to follow you anymore. But even then, he doesn't necessarily take the leadership role. He follows somebody else who has his ideal that he was aimed at. They don't become the leader. They follow the new leader. The knight. The alpha might still be interested in the military. You know, they like being in charge. They want, you know, a platoon of soldiers to do what he asks them to do. They might be interested in that too. The rogue might be in the fact that he doesn't like being told what to do. So he will go if he's drafted, and he'll be extremely loyal, but he's going to hate being told what to do. So he's going to kind of go off and do his own thing. Yes? How would the guru answer that? They would be the tank specialist. They would be the armorer that's over all of the gadgets. They would be, yes, I want to, but if it's in my field, right? Okay, there's your military question. What was the question before? I thought we were on military. Politics, well, kind of the same thing. So I went off on the wrong tangent. Okay, but it's basically the same thing. Your intellectuals, I'm going to go back to that though. Politics, because the intellectual loves to argue about politics, right? The knight wants to be in politics because they have a cause, and they want you to follow him because this is how we should do it. I am definitely a this or a that. So a lot of knights and a lot of intellectuals are really into politics. Most of the other ones are just, yeah, I will if I have to. Yes? The charmer, not enough attention. The attention's on the guy in charge, and that's not good enough.
So maybe politics.
And no women to play with. Yes?
Perhaps politics?
Perhaps.
The glory and like
Perhaps. I don't know if they would work hard enough. They're kind of lazy. You know, I mean, if somebody else is going to do all the campaigning for them, and if somebody else is going to do all the stuff and all they had to do is smile and look nice, then yes, charmer. But they wouldn't even necessarily, they would be like highly susceptible to,
It's not really that they're interested in politics.
it's just for the attention. Exactly. So that's why that question would weed out, you know, are you a this or a that? There you go. Okay. Traumatic life experiences. This is going to lead you to a person who's out at the end of the spokes. Usually, if they have a traumatic experience in life, whether it's a divorce or a death in the family or, you know, losing all your money, whatever it is, Did it affect them? Some people it doesn't affect them. They keep their ideals. But some people it changes them and they become this other thing and they become extreme. This is very true in real people. If you've had, one elder, his parents were divorced and that was very hard for him. It changed his life. His mother remarried and he had been a guru up till that point. He had been very introverted. And I don't know the situation at home. I just knew that they were divorced. But he'd become this gamer hiding in the basement. Well, his mother remarried. And this man changed his life. This man taught him what he could be, what he could do. Look at all of this world out here. And all of a sudden he became this gentleman that wanted to be involved with you and help you and let me show you because someone did that for him. Did this change your character? That's an extreme situation. I've only met one who went from one archetype to another archetype. It just doesn't happen very often. Yes?
What about someone who, like, his father dies, so he's forced to become kind of the head of the family?
Yes, that's going to affect it.
Leader, but maybe he doesn't.
Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he's not an alpha, but now kind of has to be.
Would he really be like, I don't know, a rogue that he has to play?
So maybe he would struggle with that. Now I have this role, but that's not my tendencies. So that would be his conflict. I am this, but they want me to be this. They need me to be this. So that would be very good, as long as you keep true to what he is inside. Anything else? Okay, we gotta hurry. What do you think of children? Intellectuals don't like them. Most everybody else is fine with them. Chiefs are okay. It depends on the kid. They like their own kids, but not other people's kids. Alpha. Sorry. I was thinking of another word. That's the word that's in the other book. The one I told you about. She calls it a chief. Everybody else is pretty okay with it, especially bad boys or rogues love their own children. They will do anything for their own children. Like literally die for their own children. Okay, here's the quiz time. We got to do this really fast though. I just archetyped this guy. What do you think he is? Guesses. Not a guru. Not a gentleman. Not a knight. He is a charmer. He was the guy who broke into the 7-Up company and got out of it without getting in trouble. He didn't steal anything. It was just for fun. Yeah, it's for fun. It's not to cause trouble. It's because he's precocious. He wants to know what's in there. He's not the womanizing charmer. He's the very curious, very, but can still get out of all the trouble that he makes. Yes. Yeah, well, they can like I said, they're sliding up and down that bar. Okay, next one. Who's this guy? Adam Sedwill, who's here. You've maybe been to one of his classes. What do you think he is?
Adventure.
Yes. What's he wearing? Did you notice what he's wearing? He's wearing like t-shirts. He's fit. He's got, I can't think of the word, material. His pants, they're not jeans. They're like for getting stuff done, going places, doing things, right? So he can go mountain climbing right now if he wants to. Okay, what's this guy? No. No. Nope. 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 He is a rogue. And he was surprised by it. He was shocked. He was shocked. Because he's not the one that gets in trouble. He's very loyal and he's very independent. He wants to do things his way. He wants to be able to, I want to be part of it as long as I can do things my own way, right? And he was really shocked by it. But the more questions I asked, more of those questions, and all I did was go down those questions and asked them questions and found out what archetype they were.
Just those 20 questions.
Just those 20 questions. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever, because I had 3 of them like this, and they were answering questions, and we got off track so many times it took us forever, but it was so fun. Okay, how about this guy?
Charmer, intellectual.
Not a charmer. Not an intellectual. Not a rogue. Not a gentleman. What's that? He is a guru. He is a specialist in what he does. He started off as an accountant, and so the other authors were like, he's intellectual. He's an accountant, you know what I mean? And they were all thinking they were so funny. And it comes out that he's a guru. And he kind of tended toward that. You know, you would think maybe intellectual, but then you find out these more, the more questions that you ask, the more fine-tuning you do, you find out he's very good at one very specific thing. And he was unhappy as an accountant because he wasn't doing that one specific thing that he wanted to do. Okay, so what archetype are you? Now, we didn't talk about girls, but why is that important as a writer? If you are an introvert, we won't use archetype names, but if you're an introvert, are you going to get very far as an author? Not unless you find a really big publisher, right? Because now you got to be on Facebook and Instagram and tweet and all of that kind of stuff, right? You got to be out of that shell. So if you know you're an introvert, if you know what your archetype is, that will help you as an author. That will help you, okay, now I know I have this, so how do I deal with it? Or I know I have this strength, so how can I use it as an author to promote myself? Or why is this affecting the way I write? Why am I so worried about whether other people like this or not? Okay, this really affects you. It really does. I didn't understand this until I found out about archetypes. I didn't know what I was. When I found out what I was, it was good and bad. But it helped me in so many ways. It helped me realize that's why I do that. And what can I do to not do that anymore? But it also taught me that's why I get along with my husband so great. That's why we get along, even though we're complete opposites. That's why we get along. So finding out your own archetype can be very beneficial to you as an author. I do have up in front, does anybody really want these? Because I know somebody would be like, I don't like Twilight. 4, okay. Okay, so up front I am coming up with an archetyping book that discusses all of this stuff plus more. There will be a female archetype book and a male archetype book. If you are interested in finding out when it comes out, I have some sheets up here. Zip me your email address and I will keep you updated with everything. And you will find out, you'll get a discount on it. So, and if you are interested in being archetyped yourself or getting help with a character, let me know how to get a hold of you. Yes?
The book that you mentioned right at the beginning,
Yes.
have all these archetypes in it?
Yes, they do.
Your riff on that book.
No, they do have all these archetypes. The main stuff that I will be talking about is how to use the archetypes. Okay? They give you the archetypes, but
And it's got the male and female ones in the book.
yes.
You might need to see the
And my card's up here if you want to just email me. Thank you.